Okay, so now we're going to go over some basic first turn strategy and ideas. A lot of new players and even experienced players want to know, what can I do on turn one? How am I really going to set this game up for myself? And there's so many options. What's even possible, and can I even do anything? You'll note that in a lot of games you're trying to create an engine, either a production type engine or an economic engine, and that doesn't really occur in this game. However, it is still worker placement, and there is a way to create extra workers, so that's really how you're going to get more efficiencies, more actions in the future. So that is typically what a lot of people will focus on getting quickly. Another thing that is of high value and high focus is to go down the technology track because you can get access to the special tiles. That's usually people's first focus. Again, balancing, not getting too many, but getting some of them. And then, of course, later trying to get the inventory up so that you can feed better, plus just have more stuff available to do across more than one turn. So, and it gives you more options here. So both are very good things to do. And the question is, how fast can I get there, and how well can I do that? So let's talk about that. Both are, no matter what your initial bonus number is set up, and I just put it here on 5, but no matter what it's set up to, you can achieve either a new nurse or a new technology at the end of a first turn. Now, is that the best thing to do, and how will that play with the second turn is an interesting question, but I'm just going to show basically how you can do it, again, pretty much no matter what the setup is, just to get people used to the actual flow of the game. So let's start with the technology track, and let's see if we can get down the technology track. Well, reverse engineering, you know that you need 2 brown cubes, and you need to have a nurse stationed here, because that's the technology bonus action, and so you say, right, how am I going to get to 2 earth? Sorry. So the only ways to do that are to harvest them off your pheromones, which means you're going to have to send workers out to get them. Or technically, you can also use the new exit hole to get an earth. A bit early in the game to do that because you have to place it near pheromone. So don't know if that grants you any real advantage at this point. So most likely, you're going to send both your workers out to do this. The one time in which you might not have to send both workers out is if you had the bonus action of the +3 on the harvest. So if it was on the 3, and we rolled the 3 for that season, or the 2 or the 4, and you chose to use your larva to adjust it, you could do that, and you would only have to use 1 worker to do it if you could place a pheromone down that covered 2 brown spaces. And we'll talk about that again in a second. But let's assume we're here and that option isn't available. So we're going to send these 2 out. So what does that mean? That means that, well, these 2 guys are nurses you can put anywhere because you're done for this turn. So in reality, you should already be thinking about what you need for your next turn. Well, one way to think about it is, since both of these 2 are going to go out and die, I'm probably going to go ahead and need to make a new worker. Okay, so that would be one way to do it. Another thing is to think, well, wait a minute, but I'm on the soldier bonus action, so maybe I'll do that so I can get a free soldier out of it, and I'll just create workers next turn. Okay, so let's just do that. And so now we're done. We're programmed. All our opponents, they're ready. Okay, let's go. And so nothing happens here. And this is all, people just do this simultaneously on their board. So I get the 1 worker, and then I get the bonus because that's my bonus action. And these go back in here. So now it's time to work. So we're going to slide over and say, right. Okay. So I send my first guy out, and I say, oh, I want brown. So I go 1, 2, and I land there, and I do that. And I say, great. And he dies. And I put brown there. Now all my opponents go, and now it's my second worker action. He comes out of the hole, and he does similar. He just stops right there. That's all I need. And brown and green again. Okay. So then all of my opponents, they finish their other worker actions, and we're all done. So now we go, if you remember, stage 4 is harvesting. And you harvest 1 from each tile. And I know I want to pick the brown ones because I need those in stage 5. And then I say, everyone's done with their harvesting. We slide back over. And we say, okay, bonus action. Go to the technology track. Requires 2 earth. Throw them away. And go down. And then this guy's done. And again, if my opponents had chosen similar actions. And now we're all done. So I go to inventory reduction. I'm fine. My opponents check theirs. We don't have a feed because this is just at the end of the first turn. And that's the whole first turn. So at the end of this, I have accomplished my goal of moving down the technology track, and I've actually generated 2 soldiers. However, was this the best idea? So let's talk about that for a second. It really wasn't. So imagine now it's turn 2, and whatever the bonus is, well, depending on what the bonus is, actually would matter quite a bit. But let's assume that the bonus was down here, 1 through 5, just not 6. So the first thing I have to do is create a worker. Again, the idea is in turn 2, I want to take advantage of whatever I just did, and the main focus that people have is to try to generate a special tile. Well, so I'm going in turn 2. If I do this, I'm going to make a worker, and that's great, and I'm going to send him out to make my special tile. But remember, I have to pay for it, so I have to pay a food or a stone, a green or a gray, and I don't have any. And this action happens before the harvesting, so I have to have that in my storage now. And there's no other way. Well, technically, the only other way to do that is to generate more larvae. Because remember, what you can do at any time is trade 3 larvae for 1 food. So if this was my situation and I had gone here and somehow the bonus action was on 2, then I could actually do this. Okay, but it's the only way in which that works out. If it was on 2, or if it was on 3 or 1, and I actually paid 1 to move it, because you'd still net a gain here. So what this would do is actually give me 3, right? 1 plus the bonus 2. So I could still do it. So if that was the case, so if the bonus was on 1, 2, or 3, I could make it happen. But if the bonus was on 4 or 5, in this situation, I couldn't make it happen. The other way to do it is if the bonus was on 6, and I put the larva there to make extra workers. In this case, what would happen is I would create 2 workers here, and the first one I would send over here to get the food, and then the second one I would go out and then generate the. I could pay to get the special tile. But so far, that's the only way I'm doing that on turn 2 is creating that special tile, which will actually, remember, gives you the opposite. You pay green to get this. So it's possible. You're a little bit limited on which way you're going to do it and which one's more beneficial. Quite frankly, I think this is more beneficial. But again, the odds are, you had to have a 6 to do it. Okay, so but you need to pay attention to that. So if the numbers rolled were that, again, that's part of the game you have to pay attention to and plan that out. But let's back up to turn 1 and talk about what we could have done instead to really have helped ourselves. So this was the makeup on turn 1, and we were on number 5. So again, I'm going to do the same thing where I say, right, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to make my 2 soldiers. So now, in this case, I do that. I make those 2 soldiers. But instead, when I come out, so let's clear this. Again, we're going backwards in time, if you will. Hey, Doctor Who. So we're going to come out. And instead of going over here, I really want to, this is one of the keys, I really want to make the most efficient use of this worker since he's going to die. So I want to do more than one thing. The first thing I want to do is I want to come over here and kill this bug. Because remember, I just made 2 soldiers. And this bug, if we look up here, requires 1 soldier to kill. But the really important thing is, okay, so I kill him, he dies. And I get this token, which is important. If you remember, if you can see this up here, remember in this particular game, the bug token bonus tile is out, so that's actually quite helpful in the future. But not only that, up here, I immediately get 2 points, so that's lovely. You can't see, yep, there, I just moved my 2 points up. But the other thing is I get the food immediately. Aha! So this goes into my inventory, which will be available, well, it's available right now, but it's also available next turn. So we put the pheromone tile down, and then we get the brown and green. And now the second one comes out, and we could leave that the same. That doesn't really matter. And then brown and green there. So, and then, of course, my second worker died. Now, at the end of this, I go to harvest, and brown like we did last time. And then we come over here, and we see it's a slightly different result here. And now I'm going to go down the technology track, like I said. Boom, boom. And this is done. Now at the end, this is the end of the first turn. But now at the beginning of my second turn, no matter what the bonuses are now, I only need to do this to create my one worker. And oops, sorry for the camera thing there. I'll create that one worker, and he'll go out and he'll have this green cube available already to pay that price. So I don't have to worry about getting a green cube another way. Now I can if I want, whatever. Food's always useful, so there's that. But you're not hemmed in. And we saw a much more efficient use of that first worker. Now it did cost me, I sacrificed the soldier to do that, but I got the 2 points. I got the bug thing for later, and I got the food immediately. So it's really probably worth it. The only downside to that particular play, if you're thinking about future stuff, is that pheromones kind of maybe in the way if I want to put different pheromones down later. But I can clear it, although that's going to cost the earth. Remember that. And I can also slide across it, so that actually gives me one movement point better as far as getting to the middle, where sometimes there's usually a fight for the middle spaces, because that's where you can put down some large things. Anyway, that's stuff to think about for the future. So that should have given you a good idea on really how that first play plays out. If your goal was to get the technology first. So it's really quite straightforward, but there are some things to think about. So if we reset our board here and we think, okay, well, what's the same thing? Just quickly, now you should be able to imagine how can I do that? The other thing that people want to do, of course, is to create a nurse on the first turn, at the end of the first turn. And if you remember, you need 2 green and 2 white, or 2 food and 2 larvae to do that. So how are we going to do that? Again, you can use the workers to go out and place pheromones down and harvest green off of each, which would give you 2 green here, or the same thing you can create. So remember, this is already going to be there. You're going to need to do that. So these 2 can again create soldiers. Even if there's not a bonus, you can always just create the 1. You can fight a bug to get the food that way, because you need 2. And then you're going to have to make a decision here. That decision is, if you use that to create 1 larva, then this guy's kind of stranded. So in a lot of cases, what you'll do is you just create the worker. And remember, that worker, then you'll have 3 when it comes time for that. That worker can go there and just get the larva, and he'll stay alive. And the other 2 can go out and get the pheromones. Now, if you do that, then in this case, you have to go out and get the pheromones to produce the green. You won't have any soldiers to fight the bugs. Okay, this is where the initial setup comes into play quite a bit, because, sliding over here, our friend Red was over here, and I moved the thing, sorry, comes out of here and goes to the ladybug, and the ladybug, if you kill that, gives you 2 food. So that's actually the most efficient way. If you have a ladybug outside of your exit hole, that's pretty much going to tell you you might create that nurse first off. But it just depends on your plan for the game, or what your opponents are doing, or whatever it is. But those are the kinds of ways in which you have to think about this. So in reality, what you just heard me say there is that not only are you trying to think about what you're going to end up, what you're trying to accomplish this turn, but what does that leave you with to do on your next turn? And that's a constant battle of, oh man, I needed X in my inventory so that I can start. And that's usually when you're focused on getting these either going down the technology track, or specifically getting these tiles, and of course making the nurses. That's a repeated process for the first couple of turns. People are thinking about that, but don't forget, every turn you need to be thinking about how are you going to get your 4 food, or combination of food and soldiers to feed at the end of the first year. So there's really quite a bit going on, and you have 3 turns to get it all done and get yourself set up for future, because that's the end of the first year, and you should plan to be down at least 1 on the technology track, and have at least 1 more nurse at the end, and have fed everybody at the end of the first year, and still have at least 1 worker. So that's just minimum things you should be targeting. After that, the second year is setting up for getting bonus tiles, really, because you probably want those. I guess there's a way to win without them, but anyway, so hopefully that's helped cover the basics. Again, how does it all work, and what's it really like when play starts. And anyway, hope you enjoy it. It's fantastic. All right, thanks.